All right, I want to get everyone's opinion about something really quick. I want you to raise your hand if you think that as a culture and as a society that we're getting busier. Raise your hand if you think that we're getting busier. Okay, all right. Now raise your hand if you think that as a culture and a society, we're actually getting a little bit lazier. We're getting lazier. Raise your hand if you think that. Okay. Now I want you to raise your hand if you think that as a culture and as a society, we're actually getting both busier and lazier. Somehow we're getting busier, yet we're getting lazier. Raise your hand if you think that. Okay. I think that might be the reality. Even though those are two completely different ideas, but today we're talking about laziness. One thing about me is that when I start to watch a little bit of TV, the next thing I know is hours and hours have gone by and I've done absolutely nothing, just wasting my life away. If I'm given the opportunity, I will binge watch Netflix all weekend long. You see, I can choose to get really, really lazy. Anyone else relate to that? You know that you have the capacity to get pretty lazy if you want to. Now, maybe it's not those things for you guys, but let me give you some statistics about you guys as teenagers. You teenagers spend 6 hours a day looking at your phones. You then spend an additional 5 hours a day looking at different types of screens, whether it be watching TV, playing PS4 or Xbox One, or shopping online on your computer. That's 11 hours a day total looking at some type of screen. Now, does that surprise any of you, or does that sound about right? You see, we can get really lazy. We can be online and social all day long, but in real life, you're doing nothing at all.
How many times does the average teenager check their phones? A, 3 times. Once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once at night. B, 16 times. About once an hour. C, 74 times. Or D, 117 times. The answer is C, 74 times. Although some of you check it way more than that. You know who you are.
Would you say that you are a motivated person or a lazy person, and why?
Ooh, I wish I could say motivated. Sometimes I'm lazy, though.
In between?
I'd say lazy because I'd rather sit around than do some things.
Lazy.
Why would you say lazy?
Because I'd rather nap all day. I'd like to say I'm motivated, but I'm probably more lazy.
Okay, why?
I like to sit on the couch. That's a good thing to do.
I'd say I'm motivated, kind of depending on what I'm trying to figure out.
Lazy.
Why?
Because I like to sleep
I'm honestly a little bit of both.
and eat.
I think motivated for the most part when I set my mind to it.
And go to bed. I don't really like to do anything else.
What would you say is your laziest habit?
Probably eating.
Eating.
Snacking.
I understand.
If I get the opportunity, I'll sleep till like 2 in the afternoon.
I'd say watching TV, sleeping.
Like being on my phone or usually just kind of hanging out, really.
Probably making my bed because I don't see any point in.
I agree with that. So I'm not going to make the bed if I'm going to get back in it. That's true.
Sometimes procrastinating on homework a little bit.
Probably sleeping.
All right, guys, I'm going to throw it to you. So get into your small groups and keep the discussion going.
Laziness is the unwillingness to work or to use energy despite having the ability to do so. Now, I know if we got honest with ourselves, we're pretty selective in our laziness, aren't we? I mean, if there's something that we really want to do, we put time and effort and energy into that thing. We do it to our best of our abilities, and we do it well, and we're proud of it. But if there's something that we don't really want to do, we maybe kind of slip into laziness a little bit. We don't spend as much time or effort or energy into that thing. We sort of put it off or procrastinate, or we do it just good enough so it can get out there. We are selective when it comes to our laziness. So let me ask you this question. What about when it comes to your relationship with God? Would you say that you put time and effort and energy into that relationship? Or would you say that you tend to get a little lazy when it comes to spiritual things in your life?
I'm extroverted. I tell myself I am. Okay. Scratch, cut, loop. Okay. Hey guys, my name is Georgia and I'm a spiritual contributor. I think honestly one of the biggest steps in my faith was realizing there's a difference between relationship and religion. Relationship is truly understanding what Jesus did for us, and honestly that is the secret to happiness. I can't help but give everything I have to him. My mission field is in my backyard. It's wherever I go, I have the opportunity to show the light. When you finally realize the secret to happiness, you can't help but go out and tell the whole world. Hey guys, I'm here at my school. This is the biggest mission field that I have.
A ton of people and a lot of different groups of people we're trying to reach.
I'm at Switch. We have 20 seconds left. I'm so excited. I think some of the ways that I live out my faith is serving on the weekends, serving Life Kids in the Loop, host team and Switch, and even in our local community outside of church.
Hey guys, we're getting ready for Life Group. This is Spencer and Jeffrey and Savannah and Clay.
The people in my life group have become my best friend. We meet at a coffee shop and we just talk about life, talk about the message, we're really there for each other through the good and the bad. Once you finally realize what Jesus has done for us, it's just the logical response. You can't do anything else but show his love and show up. Thanks to God's work through Life Church, I've learned my purpose, and it's to bring people together and help them love each other as God has first loved us. Guys, that's it for me today, so I'm out.
I want you to honestly answer this question to yourself. Would you say that you actively live out your faith? Or would you say that you tend to get a little lazy when it comes to your faith? Now, if your answer to yourself is that you have a tendency to get lazy, then I want to read this Bible verse to you. And hopefully this verse will wake you up, get you moving, get you motivated. And this is what the verse has to say. In James 2, it says this: "In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds.' You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead." That verse should motivate you to put your faith into action. Because if you aren't actively living out your faith, you really need to ask yourself, is your faith really truly alive? Our faith becomes complete when we put it into action. You see, it's one thing to believe in something, but it's another thing to believe in something so much that it dictates and determines the way you live your life. It's like an athlete who tries to live a healthy lifestyle. They eat well, they work out, they train, they practice, because they truly believe that doing those things will make them a better athlete. The same is true with your faith. When you put your faith to work, when you put your faith in action, your faith will be strengthened.
It's small group time again, so let's keep this discussion going and get a little bit deeper.
My name's Mark, and I started track when I was 14. I got into track. My best friend actually invited me to practice. I was a little hesitant at first. Decided to go give it a shot and see what it was like. If anything, I figured I'd get faster for soccer and become more athletic. At first, when I started track, I was learning how to run and run better. Got along to state. I ended up doing okay. Finished about second and third, I think. And then from state, I moved on to regionals. And from regionals, I made it and qualified for the National Junior Olympics. I ended up finishing 27th in the 400, 29th in the 100, and my 200 wasn't the best. I finished 37th overall. What you put in is what you get out. And it's not only going to the track every day or 4 times a week or 3 times a week or whatever, it's when you get home, do you eat clean? Do you recover right? Do you stretch? Do you roll out? Do you take an ice bath? It's not only at the track. You have to put the work in behind what everybody else sees. That's when it really comes into play of the good and the great. When it comes to training spiritually, I think it's one of those things you have to do it every day, just like in practice, You can't just go to church once a week and then expect God to give you the results that you're looking for, your wish be granted, You have to try to open up in the Word every day, talk to Him every day, and just let His love shine through you. I think that's a big part of it, is you have to make a decision to do it and dedicate yourself to doing it every day, whether you feel like it or not, just like in training. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." The way I look at it is, life is like a race. You may fall behind, and you may have challenges, and there may be struggle, and there will be pain, but you have to push through it and just give it over to God.
There's a story in the Bible in Mark chapter 2. And it's a story where Jesus is teaching to a large crowd of people in this house. He's basically teaching in this living room, and this place is packed out so much so that there's people outside this house, basically leaning in, trying to hear what Jesus has to say. Well, there's these 4 guys who have this paralyzed friend, and they know who Jesus is and what He's capable of. And they know that they need to get their friend to Jesus immediately. So they show up at this house, and when they realize that they can't just walk right in, they decide to climb up to the roof. Now, let me pause right there for a minute. Why would these friends go through all this trouble to get their friend to Jesus? Why wouldn't they just wait there, and then when Jesus comes out of the house, they could go talk to Him then, or go home and come back later when the crowds have left? I think it's because these friends had so much faith in who Jesus was and what Jesus was capable of that they had to go and act on that faith immediately. They had to get their friend to Jesus immediately because they truly believed Jesus was who He said He was and that Jesus could do what He said He could do. So there they are on this roof digging through straw and mud and dirt, and they finally make this hole big enough and lower their friend through it right in front of Jesus in the middle of Him preaching and teaching. They interrupt Jesus. And this is how Jesus responds to them. In Mark 2:5 and 11 it says this, "When Jesus saw their faith, He said to the paralyzed man, 'Son, your sins are forgiven. I tell you, get up, take your mat, and go home.' He got up, took his mat, and walked out in full view of them all. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, 'We have never seen anything like this.'" This paralyzed man was healed because his friends had faith enough to go and do something about it. Now that is faith in action.
How do you keep from being spiritually lazy?
I try and stay connected with my friends and with my church.
I have a lot of reminders on my phone. It's all about the attitude of your heart, and as long as you're pursuing Him, then you'll have a great relationship.
I go to church a lot. I go to church on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Friends. I feel like friends help you a lot.
I try to keep my Bible like out on my nightstand, so when I see it, it's like, okay, I gotta read this now.
I think it's like attending church every Sunday and really getting into the Word.
I use the YouVersion plans a lot, so like I try to keep track with those.
I go to church all the time with my family on Wednesdays and Sundays, and then I help little kids know more about Jesus, which helps me because at the same time when they're learning something and I forgot about it when I was younger, I know more about it again.
How could you help someone else grow spiritually?
Kind of like get connected with them and maybe like do every now and then kind of like a study like just together to where I'm making sure that they're like growing in their faith.
You can take them to church and pray with them sometime or something.
Like maybe be an accountability partner or do stuff together so that you can like keep working up.
Keeping them accountable, you shoot them a text every day, say, hey, what have you been doing in your walk with Christ today? And allowing them to not get lazy.
Yeah, encourage them and keep them accountable and things like that.
I could walk up to them, just simply say hi and ask, do you mind if I pray for you, or ask them if they have any problems.
Some of you, today needs to absolutely be a wake-up call for you. You realize that you've been living a lazy faith. You've maybe believed in God, but you haven't done much with that belief in God. Well, today, it's time to start living out that faith. It's about sharing who God is with other people, what God is doing in your life. It's time to help people get closer to God in their lives. Do people know that you're a Christian because you say you are? Or do they know you're a Christian because of how you live your life? Because if you say that you're a Christian, then your actions should match those words. Christians should live like Christians. Just because you wear a sports jersey doesn't make you an athlete. It's when you get out and you actually play the game, that's what makes you an athlete. You see, people with a lazy faith have to tell others and convince others of what they believe. But people with an active faith live their lives out in such a way that others see that there's something different about them. People with an active faith are more loving, more caring, more giving, more forgiving, more helpful, more hopeful. People with an active faith are impacted by God so much in their lives that they can't help but have an impact for God. So, you can just believe in God. You can do that. You can choose to come here when you want to or when you have time. You can choose to give yourself the label Christian. But if you want to really truly see who God is and what God is capable of in and through your life, then it's time to put your faith into action. You see, summer is here, and you have a choice to make. Will you choose to be lazy, or will you choose to go and do something significant and live out the faith that you know you have?